Good day, everyone. Welcome back to the Doc of Detox show. Today's very special guest is Mary Phillips, the director of Sexy Lean Life. All right, so you already have seen how I've interviewed different practitioners, and what I like to do is I like to profile different practitioners that are really making a difference, okay, with their people. I mean, people that have a lot of heart and they have a lot of great information and they know how to strategize things for people with different conditions, not just on a physical level, but emotional level. And one of those is my dear friend, Mary Phillips.
Thank you, Darrell. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
it
listen,
means a lot to be here.
Listen, it's special to me. You know, what we got to do is we got to come together as a team, and that's what we do. We have to come together as a team, share information, and then get it out to people. And you've got some really great information. And you know what? What do you think of her name, everybody? What do you think of her name? Okay, Sexy Lean Life. Now, right off the bat, have you ever had anybody have troubles with that name? Now, she's the director of a very busy clinic, all right? And understand something. There's a lot of people that truly love the name, but...
Well, I've been criticized for it from time to time because I think it's a little bit misunderstood. And really, honestly, I chose Sexy Lean Sexy Lean Life, but Sexy Lean are really just, it's a way to describe something that is so appealing to the eye. Well, it's not just what's appealing to the eye, but it's how somebody feels. And it's what you want to see when you look in the mirror. And when you look in the mirror, it's not about what others think of you. It's what you think. It's actually what you feel. Because emotions are everything when it comes down to our health and our happiness.
You know, I don't think it's that much difference than me going around telling people that they need to love themselves. I have been criticized for that for a quarter of a century. And that's the God's truth. Criticized for that because that is what? What is it?
Well, it's
selfish. It's selfishness and it's egotistical.
Right. But Sexy Lean is an integral part of your spirit. It's a big part of your spirit. And if you let that go, you start to decline. And I deal with mostly women who are 40 and up. And I think it's just so important.
And you know what? Like when we were younger, we were told that we need an extra 10 to 20 pounds on us in case we get sick because we need the fat in case we're sick. For one thing, we don't need to get sick. And that's another illusion. And also, you may not get this, but 80% of the population, and we're not picking on them, 80% of the population is overweight. Okay, 60% of the population is now obese. 1 out of every 4 children are now obese, not overweight. Okay, so 3 out of 4 children now are overweight for their age. Now, what does the food industry, okay, want everyone to not like? Being sexy and being lean. Now, being sexy means you're healthy. Being sexy means that you've got really a great shape.
But here's the deal. Most women that are my age don't feel relevant anymore because they've lost that spark. And my job is to help them facilitate what it takes to get that back.
I think you mean your passion.
It is my passion.
It's her passion.
It is
it's
my
her passion. You know, when she first mentioned the name of her clinic, the first thing I thought was, wow, you're really setting yourself up here. And
for it to be criticized.
Yeah. And it wasn't because it's wrong. It's because it's a road less traveled.
And I was criticized. I was criticized quite a bit.
Yeah.
But that was okay. I didn't mind that because I knew what my path was.
And you know what? There's not a woman out there that does not want to have a great body. Because understand, a healthy body, okay, is a healthy body. It means you're not sick.
And it's a healthy mind.
Yes, and it means you're not sick.
Exactly.
Right. And so, again, let's go back to this. So it's all about, you know, being like having lean body just means that you're not overweight. A lean body means that you have muscle tone.
It means lighten the load, really.
Yeah.
It's a metaphor for.
Yeah, for everything, for the mind.
Yeah. Not to carry so much.
Yeah. And you know what? I like it. You know, it's just, you got to get used to it, right? It's
right.
like, wow, you're being really bold, right? But you know what? Like, I'm not. Okay.
So, I can't expect everyone to understand me and where I'm coming from, but those that are looking for it will, and that's what matters.
Yeah. So what has made you so passionate? Not, I mean, the name is you, but what has made you so passionate about taking this direction and helping women to rediscover what they had and that they should rediscover it? What made you so passionate about that?
Well, I know that first and foremost, it makes me happy. I went through many, many years of torturing myself. I beat myself up. I was my worst critic, and I was trying to figure out why. Where did that come from? And so it's been a long journey for me, but I feel so strong about conveying what I learned to, and it's not just for women, it's for men too. And what man doesn't want his wife to feel vibrant and beautiful? If you're sexy, then you're confident, you have more energy, and you have vitality. And that's what we need, especially if we want abundance in all areas of our life.
Yeah, but the thing is that the majority of the population has become comfortable with being uncomfortable, not just in their clothes,
No,
but also in
They're-
their life. And you know what?
there's
They
so many
have.
distractions, right? Why do so many women drink wine every night, right? And the food that we eat. And a lot of people have just taken
Because
to
they've
that
lost
comfort.
themselves. They've lost themselves.
Well, I was one of those people. I wasn't a wine drinker, but I used food as a drug for many, many, many years. And it stemmed from my childhood. And I had to go back and figure out why. And it was from a lot of childhood trauma. But once I started working on it, it changed my life. And I
Yeah.
want others to feel the same.
And you know what? It's not like we haven't gone through trauma. I mean, every
Right.
one of us,
Everyone.
every one of us has gone through trauma in our life, and you're right. If we don't learn how to lighten up, okay, we're gonna break apart, and that's what's happening to us.
Yes, it is.
And we get this trauma, we bury it deep, and when you bury that drama, and that trauma, what happens is it creates physical blocks. Those physical blocks, well, you stiffen up, okay? You get circulatory problems, okay? You put on excess weight, all right? And it just goes downhill from
Well, and
there.
that's what I mean by you start to decline. You
Yeah.
just you settle for something less than, when really you deserve so much more.
So what is your main target for
The
working
demographic
with?
that
Yeah,
I work with?
Yeah,
Women 40 and up. Yeah.
right. Well, that's where we usually see it start to happen,
That is
right?
when we start to see it happen.
And that's because what happens is that they give everything to their children and to their family. And then by the time they really do take a good look in the mirror, which most women will never look in the mirror and truly look into their eyes and say, what is it I really need?
That's exactly right. So I used to be a personal trainer years ago, and I had a gym in Seattle. And the one thing I noticed was that women aren't comfortable going into a gym because there are mirrors, and they don't like looking at themselves.
Yeah, meanwhile, women
Yeah.
look at themselves for more than men do. But when they're looking at themselves in the mirror, they're looking for imperfections and
That's
why
exactly
they're
right.
not good enough.
That's exactly right.
And you can't do that because there comes the Haagen-Dazs.
That's the crux.
There's the Haagen-Dazs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know what? If you can't get sweetness from yourself, you're going to take it from a container. So until you get sweet about yourself and you decide, what is it that I really need? I mean, if you're not going to be selfish enough to know what you really need and go and get it, okay? And that's the thing. If you want to stand out, everybody wants to stand out. You've got to be outstanding, which means you got to stand out a little bit. And of course, nobody wants to stand out. Well, guess what? Most people are standing out because they're overweight. And understand, we are now the minority. The lean and sexy are now the minority. And we better bring it back because we're talking about diabetes, we're talking about cancer.
Depression.
It all comes with it. I mean, how many people are on medication right now?
Right.
Okay, all right. I got to tell you something. I've treated 3 families this week where their children or the husband or the mothers are all on medication, right?
Yeah.
And it's about really honoring, respecting, and loving yourself enough to know that you got this. And you understand that the system does not want you to feel lean and sexy
No,
because you're going to be healthy, and then you won't have to lean on the system.
So we've been sold a bill of goods. We've been told that health and beauty are out there, when really it's here. It's just a matter. It's a decision. That's all it is. It's a decision to go ahead and take action and a commitment to make big change, to make new habits.
And that's where Mary has been so successful in her practice. She's seen thousands of women. And what she does is she creates a blueprint for them. If you don't have a blueprint, you don't know where to start.
You have to have a protocol to follow.
And if you don't have a support team, you know, because
Yeah.
it can be difficult, because especially with women, and I tell you right now, I know it. And I don't do the work you do, so understand that. But I will tell you, so many times women will come in here, and they'll say, okay, I want to get healthy. So what do I do? And then we'll tell them, do this, 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 and this. And guess what? I'm not saying everybody and every husband, but this happens a lot. Wow, honey, you're really starting to look good. And then when they start really looking good,
There's sabotage.
then the husband unconsciously, subconsciously sabotages his wife, because everybody's got to buy into that. And if he doesn't buy into getting well and healthy, then, then it's like this. They were here, and now it seems like she's coming up here because she's lightening the load.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Doesn't mean that you stay together.
Yeah.
As far as the journey goes for
Yeah.
change.
Okay.
You have to want transformation. You have to absolutely want it and make that decision for yourself.
If I could just say something.
Yeah.
You know what they're doing today? They're trying to make large women be very comfortable with being large. And I got to tell you something.
That's why
be
they're in
large.
stores.
Yeah, be large if you want to be large, but understand with that comes 85% of the population has autoimmune disease, and that's what you're going to get. So you're not going to live as long. You're going to have heart disease. You're probably going to have diabetes.
Gateway to cancer.
Yeah.
And diabetes.
And don't tell me you're happy. You cannot tell me you're happy, because the people that I talk to, they are not happy, but they can't get out of it.
I think people have a hard time voicing out loud what they really want. I think they have a hard time saying that, because I think that most people don't really believe that they can have.
Well, how would you like to beat down? How would you like to be beat down so much emotionally and physically that you won't open your mouth when you know that you're on a crash course with your health? And you won't open your mouth. You won't. You know what? When do we love ourselves enough to demand and take our life back?
Well, I think it starts when we're young, and I do believe that shame and guilt play a big part of it. And
Yeah.
I remember even being little one year, and my mother asked me what I wanted for Christmas, and I didn't want to say what I really wanted because I thought I'd be made fun of. It starts then, and it goes on through, and we continue to take on those belief systems that we don't really deserve to get what we really want. Wouldn't you say, Darrell?
Well, I would say that, and I'd say too that I know you're really busy with your practice, but the majority of women will never ever buy into this because they're programmed, and that's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And
programming is strong.
I mean, that might change, but I don't think it will change, because the programming is strong, because who you hang around with, what you listen to, and what you're programmed for. I mean, it's very hard to really change your program, especially when you, like you said, the minute that you walk and talk, you're just duplicating everybody else that's around you.
Well, you're trying to follow a set of rules.
Yeah.
Rules that really came from where? Where did they stem from?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And you said it best. It's what you eat, think, drink, say, do
Yeah.
that creates your life.
Yeah. So, it really comes down to it. And I think that you're finding the same thing, as you said earlier before we came on the show, that most of the women that are making these changes are getting to the point that they're so sick, but they don't correlate that having a lean and healthy body actually, and a beautiful body, that's what health is. So they come to you because they're sick and they don't want to be sick anymore. But the offshoot of that is that they reverse their aging process,
Mm-hmm.
and they actually bring themselves back 15 to 20 years. And they really do. I mean, the average 50-year-old woman can actually take 15 years off of her, as you've shown me with the pictures that from your clients, and it happens within 6 weeks to 3 months.
Right. But I knew when I got into this, I knew I had to walk the walk and talk the talk. And I have.
That's right.
I've done the work.
Yeah.
And it means, yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit what you do at your clinic?
Well, the best way to start with a client is through live blood analysis. And so that way I can sit down with the client one-on-one. I can teach them how to look at their own blood in a live state, and I can literally see the condition of the client at that point in time. And they can see firsthand what's going on in their body and how their body really functions. It's kind of like a light bulb, and that's why I fell in love with it to begin with.
Yeah, and why don't you explain that a little bit?
So
what do you do?
well-
Because a lot of people don't know about live blood. You just said
Well,
it, but
it kind of varies a little bit from
Yeah.
state to state.
Right.
But right now, what I do is I just prick their finger. I get just a tiny bit of blood. I put it on the slide. It goes underneath the microscope. And then I have a monitor so they can see what I see when I'm looking into the microscope. And I can basically, it's just like you had said this before. It's like a computer printout of the blood, and the blood doesn't lie. It tells you what's going on. You can see if they're, if they've got deficiencies. You can see if like maybe the liver or the kidney are stressed. You can see, the quality of the red blood cells. You can see their immune system. You can see parasites. You can see blood clots. And the beauty of it is you can catch it at such an early stage, and it's just so easy to fix. And I think people have been sold, obviously, like we talked about earlier in this conversation, they've been sold a bill of goods, and they're confused about their health, and everything is, given a label, when really just look at the blood and we can fix it.
the blood can tell you if you've got heavy metals, if you've got
Right, exactly.
chemical poisoning. You can tell by the way the blood cells are sticking together, or they're allowing each other to breathe, because that means there's oxygen around them, or also understand something. You can tell when you look at the blood, as you were saying earlier, that you can tell the actual oxygen content and the light content in
sure
the
can.
human body, because all your blood cells, your red blood cells, are ferry boats of light. And when they jam up together, there's no light. And
Well, you want the red blood cells to be nice and perfectly round and dense. And when they're not picking up a full load of oxygen, then you see a lot of white inside the cell, and that just tells you what's going on. Well, it doesn't tell you exactly why, but you can also see the different shapes, and the free radical damage, and you can also tell if there's stress. And we talked about how emotions are a big part of that, because it contracts the cell, makes it less pliable, won't
Yeah.
pick up a full load of oxygen.
And it's also dumping the wrong chemicals, which make it glicky sticky.
That's exactly
So, everything gets sticky, not just your bowel movements, but if your bowel movements are sticky, just know your blood cells are sticky.
Well,
Back to the-
nutrients don't get in, waste doesn't get out,
That's right.
and that's when things go bad.
And then we've got a backup, we've got a jam up. And that's what
Yeah.
happens. And then we get blood clots.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can go just like that, or even coming as bad as when women have their periods and they have these heavy clots come out. This is all about that.
Sure.
And it's showing you what you have and what you need to turn around.
You can even tell somebody's just not drinking enough water.
Yeah,
And these fixes, like I said earlier, are so simple. If somebody is too acidic, we've got ways the most effective and the most cost-effective modalities and most
yeah.
efficient.
but
What
I
were
think
you
the
saying?
best thing that you do is you when you were saying that you look at the condition they're in, and you deal with their emotions, which I think is great for those that are open to it. And
Right.
then you take a look at their day from the minute they wake up till they go to bed, and you look at what their exercise is like, what their diet's
Yeah,
like,
you find everything about their lifestyle.
what their routine is like, and then what you do is you go in and you help them
Well, you
become
tweak
the
it.
architecture of their life.
Right.
Right.
Because they're the healer,
Yeah,
not the doctor. They are their own doctor.
right.
I'm just a facilitator.
Yeah. So what else do you do? I know that you do shock point therapy.
It's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's a really simple technique. The body has points, two sets of points, just above the belly button area, and
femoral arteries.
and then the femoral arteries, and you get the pulse. And believe it or not, if you're trained properly, which Mary is, and you know how to do this, you can release trauma that you got
It's been stored in the body for
from,
many years.
it could have been trauma even from the womb. So, yeah, some people might know it like doing trigger point, but it's way beyond that. Shock point is can release trauma that's stored anywhere in the body, because different types of dysfunctional or emotions that couldn't be processed, they got to be stored somewhere. So if you went through some trauma and you never really could put it to bed, or you could never be at peace with it, then it goes in and it takes you to pieces. And that's where disease comes from. And I know that you do a lot of that. And also, you do a lot of work on women who have fibroids. You do what's called the pelvic clearance, women that have surgery scars, and you're able to go in and break up their scars, gently break up and pull their scars apart. Because guess what? When you get surgery,
Well, I've been through it myself. So.
yeah, that scar tissue is the worst scar tissue you can have.
It's an adhesion. It's more involved than any other scar tissue. It grows.
It's the only scar tissue except for tumors that grows legs.
Yeah, it grows like a weed.
Yeah, when you get like surgery and they cut into you, it's not the same as when you have a sports injury. You don't have that. It's the trauma from the knife.
That's exactly right.
And the trauma from the knife, and I'm not telling you not to get surgery, but I'm just saying, before you ever opt for surgery, women, and you've got endometriosis or fibroids, whether they're in the breasts or they're in the pelvis, or you've got abdominal problems and you can't poop properly, okay, or even if you've got hip problems or knee problems, you really got to check out Mary. And Mary, where are you located?
I'm in Palm Desert, California.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
The Palm Springs area.
how do they get in touch?
They can call me I like to talk to people on the phone first. So it's 206-327-1047.
And your website again?
SexyLeanLife.com.
Isn't that great? You know what? And if you're having trouble, say it. Just practice like me. Say it enough, and then you'll want it.
Now start saying you're sexy. I'm sexy.
You know what? Because I tell you
mean it.
something. You're always programmed. You're programmed. That's what you are. You're programmed. We all get programmed, and then you can't buy into all of them. You got to let some of the programs go.
That's exactly right.
And if you don't let them go, you're going to really
You can't let
carry a heavy load, right?
You can't let other things rule you.
No.
Yeah.
So also you do a lot of different types of nutritional consultations.
And fasting, guided fasts.
Yeah, you do guided fasts, and also you do a lot of emotional consultations for, when we hit the wall and that happens, guess what? And guess who it happens the most with? 40 to 50-year-old women who wake up and go, now what do I do with my life? Okay, I've given everything to my children. I've given everything to my husband, and I don't even know who the heck I am. And how's that one? That's one you hear all the time.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
And guess what? You're not an empty shell, girls. Okay? You just need to go back down and uncover and discover, okay, that little girl inside of you, and want to come out and play. And that's what...
Well, that's one of the big things I'm an advocate of, is being playful.
Oh, like we haven't noticed. Check out Mary's Facebook or anything else, and you'll see that life is a playground. And guess what? And understand something. When you can finally let that little girl out of jail, all right, you'll see that your youth will come back. And if you look in the mirror and you see somebody that you don't like, it's because it's not you. It's not you. But just know that you're in there. And when you get to discover that real you again, don't you ever give her up again. And guess who's going to do it for you, right, Mary? You are.
No, they're going to do the work.
I know, but she's going to...
But they've got a friend.
Yeah, you've got a friend who knows what buttons to push, okay, to turn you on again to something spectacular, which is yourself.
Exactly.
Is there anything you'd like to tell them before we go?
I just think that the most important thing is to just make that commitment and decide, really, what do you want? I remember when somebody asked me that a few years ago, and I kind of struggled with it because I think I was afraid to say what I really wanted, to dream big. But I think it's the most important thing you can do. Dream big, say what you want, go after it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you get to the point...
Find your spirit.
Yeah. There it is. Find your spirit.
It's
because
all about spirit.
It is.
Yeah.
And when you no longer need approval from anybody, not your family, anybody else, I'm not putting your family down, but guess what? You shouldn't have to have approval for how sexy and lean you can be. And you know what? And when you no longer take things personal, but you take personal action, and that's exactly what you're always saying, you know, just make sure that you take massive personal action and truly embracing yourself and saying, you know what, I deserve it.
And not to mention also that it's one of the most courageous things you could do. Right? It takes courage to stand up and say.
It takes courage to save your life.
It sure does.
Because guess what? I know that you don't believe this, but actually, nobody really cares. And if you don't care for you, you know what? You've got to. It's got to start here.
Well, the outside world doesn't.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't.
No.
It doesn't. They say they do, but the reality is it's your body and it's your life, and you've got to take it back. And so go tonight and look in the mirror and ask yourself, you know, can I do this? And you can. Just, right?
Exactly.
You can do it.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing.
All right? Yeah. So, Mary, if they want to call you?
206-327-1047.
And your website?
sexyleanlife.com.
Yeah, you won't forget it. We won't forget that, will you? Thank you for joining us. And just know that it is your life, but you've got to want it bad enough, and you've got to want to take it back. I want to thank you, Mary, for joining me on the show. Okay?
And thank you for having me. Yeah.
All right. So just make sure that you check out our schedule, because we've got lots of shows for you. And every Monday and Friday when I'm around, we do a live Q&A. It's a 2-hour Q&A, and we're going to answer your questions. And Mary said she's going to be starting to do those Q&As for you women out there, and then you can start sending in the questions to her, right?
Absolutely.
Okay? So let's get this going, because teamwork makes the dream work. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Darrell.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
If you're looking for life-saving and life-changing information, well, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to click and subscribe. Stay connected.